Hey guys, Ross with Labor 12. If you watched my rig rundown where I went through from the pick all the way through to the speakers that I don't know what they are, you probably saw in there that told you I was going to do a video explaining how I've got my BOSS noise suppressor set up. So just to give you kind of a brief history on this, I've used noise suppressors forever. I had a Rocktron Hush Super C at one point that I really regret getting rid of, but here we are. So I went with the BOSS because it's got a way of operating that's really conducive for the kind of music we play. Hard rock, metal, anything where you don't want you don't want to kill your tone, but you also don't want a ton of noise. So with this amp, this MT15, they are notoriously noisy, and really any kind of high gain amp is going to be that way. Solid state, you might not run into it quite as much because there's a little more they can do in the guts of those things, but you just don't get the sound of a tube amp. So this is with the noise suppressor engaged. Dead quiet. This is without it. So super, super noisy. On stage, probably not a huge deal, but you know, if you have that hum coming through in a venue, nobody wants to hear the 60 hertz song. So I've got this NS-2, bought it secondhand. I think I paid 30, 40, maybe 50 bucks for it. But super effective pedal. One thing that I don't like about it is whenever it powers on, it's turned off. And so far I haven't figured out a way without rewiring some of the guts to make it turn on, like powers on and it's engaged automatically. But I digress. So let's look at the way that I've got this set up to maximize the noise killingness of it. Because, you know, what do they say? Make love, not noise. Yeah. So as you can see here on the pedal, it's got two inputs on this side, two outputs on this side. You've got your standard knobs on it. You've got your threshold, which basically means anything above, anything that breaks the threshold gets through, anything that's below it gets killed. So, like, turn that down. It's actually, there we go. If I unmute the guitar, you can hear that it's still noisy. So I'll turn this up. And I keep it right there about 2 o'clock on the threshold. And then you have your decay, which is how long the gate stays open before it closes back. So you hit gunk, how long is it open? It's got two different modes. It's got reduction mode and it's got mute mode. If it's in mute mode, it effectively turns it into a mute pedal, which to me seems like a really expensive mute pedal, but to each their own. You've got two different LEDs on here. You've got the reduction LED, which shows you when it's engaged. So if we turn this down, I don't know if you can actually see this, but let's see if maybe, there we go, if I can shadow it a little bit. So you can see it's engaged, still actually pretty quiet, which is not bad. And then you have this, it says check mute. Basically this light at the top tells you that the pedal's engaged. So the way I've got this set up, they call it the advanced X pattern. I found this on the, I think it's BOSS Australia page, because I don't know why it's not in the American documentation. At least not that I can find, but that's the one that keeps showing up. So they called this the advanced X pattern, and I'm gonna run you through what that means. So the cables as far as the way it's getting run. So my guitar comes into the tuner, and from the tuner, we go into the input here. And this is where the name, the X pattern, comes in. So from the input, we actually go out of the send on the output side. And from the send, that goes through, you know, my tube screamer, my whammy, you know, all these pedals that are in front, going into the front of the amp. And then on the other two cables, I've got this cable here is running from the effects send on the amp, and this one goes in and comes out the output on this. And so from the output, I'm running into my MXR carbon copy, and from the MXR back to the return inside the amp. And so basically what this does is, what we run into a lot is people will buy a noise suppressor, plug their guitar in, and it helps with the feedback because it's killing, you know, it's keeping your guitar from feeding back sometimes if you've got it set up properly, but you still have that hum. So if you just run from your guitar into the input and then the output into the amp, you're not going to kill this sound. So what's happening is the guitar is actually triggering the gate on this, and this gets a little complicated, not to bog you down, but it helps me to understand why this works the way it does. We actually tried running this as an effects loop gate on Jacob's, and it did great at killing the noise, but it did a terrible job at letting his tone through. So he was playing on a PRS, a Custom 24 SE, and the pickups on it just weren't strong enough to push through the gate compared to his, I don't know what you'd call it, the dumpster special. Yeah, Frankentar. That's what that thing was, but it's guitar Tanner made. Like that one would push through just fine. The Explorer body one pushed through just fine with this just in the effects loop, but his SE wouldn't. So what this does is it basically gates both your guitar signal and it gates your amp, and it uses your raw, or basically your direct guitar signal to open the gate on both. So if I hit that and mute it, nothing's coming through. So, and if you're wondering why the delay is still going, the delay is after the noise suppressor, which, if you want to get technical, that's the proper place for delays, reverbs, anything that has a tail to it. You want to keep those after your noise suppressor. That way, the gate doesn't close and kill your effects tail. So, I think that just about covers that. So, again, it goes from the guitar or tuner, and you always want your tuner before this. I accidentally, when I first did this method, I put my tuner in after, I had my tuner in the effects loop, and when I would tune, there was no sound coming through, but my guitar was still triggering, so it'd go, and it'd let that hum through. So you want to go from guitar, tuner to the input, then comes out to the send, and you run all of your front end pedals, and then with your effects, send and return on your amp, you go from the send on the amp to the return on the pedal, and then from the output of the pedal, you go to your, whatever your special effects are that have tails on them, reverb, delays, things like that, and out of those, back in to your amp, and you get this result. My guitar is live right now, and not a sound coming through. It's without, that's with. So look it up. It's called the Advanced X Pattern from BOSS. I think it's BOSS AU. So, but I'm pretty sure it's the Australian version, but they have a really cool diagram that shows you 3 or 4 ways to hook it up, but this is the most complicated way, and it's the most effective way. Once you have it set it and forget it. So I think that wraps it up. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. Follow us on YouTube, subscribe, click that button. We'll notify you whenever we put something out. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook. I think we have a Reverb Nation account, although I'm not gonna pay them to put us higher in their rankings. But yeah, we're everywhere. Check us out on Spotify. Yeah, you like Spotify? I like Spotify too. But yeah, hit us up in the comments, and any questions you have about any of our gear, let us know. If it merits it, maybe we'll shoot a video and explain it. If not, if it's something that we can explain relatively simply, we'll do that. But I think that about wraps it up, and we'll catch you guys next time. Thank you.